Let's shock the world.
Let's shock the world. It's May 16th, the year 2023. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast, episode 685.
Oh, yeah. Our bookkeeping is on point.
It is. That's the 685. Our practitioner doesn't need any information from us. We are the big 685 today. Hope you're having an awesome week. It's getting hot. It's getting toasty, not just on the weather front, but in racing. Huge weekend coming up with Chattanooga 70.3, one of our very favorite races, near and dear to our hearts. You can always go back and listen to. We got a couple race previews and also quite a few recaps, but I know podcasts 100 through 102 talk about Chat 70.3, and then episode 205 is also a race preview. So if you're doing that this weekend, take a listen to that in your drive down and enjoy the city. If you're going to go to anywhere, I recommend Tupelo Honey for a solid breakfast, and then State of Confusion or Main Street Meats. Those are two C26 endorsed restaurants.
Yeah.
Long live Blue Plate, which is no longer with us. But yeah, it's a busy race. You got Ironman Tulsa, you got Tulsa 70.3, you got a lot of other smaller races. It's busy. May is a jam-packed, huge. Last week was Gulf Coast. And then you had an ITU race in Yokohama, which is fun to watch. I think I'm probably the only person that watched that listened to this podcast. But I'll say it again. I'll probably remind everybody, but if you don't watch those, you're missing out. If you're like a person that likes to watch like the outside or Facebook Live coverage of the Ironman 70.3 and Ironman events, if you truly want to see the best triathletes on the planet, you need to watch the ITU races. They are insanely fast in all three aspects. Just to give you like a little bit of context, I think Christian Blumenfeld was like 8th or 9th. And he had to struggle to get there. And I think Gustav Iden like barely cracked the top 40. He was second to last out of the water. Just to give you an idea of how well-rounded and amazing the ITU distance athletes are. So you're talking like sprint distance, Olympic distance. The U.S. women had, I think, 3 or 4 athletes in the top 15. So they were absolutely crushing it. But yeah, anyway, it's a busy time of year, but it's the best. It's my favorite. May is the busiest month, but it's also one that we love. It's the first, it's not the kickoff to race season, but it's the first full-on submergence into all things racing every weekend. A lot of stuff going on. So that's where we're at. And before we get into our topic today, do you have anything engrossingly enlightening for us today, Mike?
Engrossingly enlightening.
Yeah, big. They said we'd shock the world, so
we shocked the world.
Shocked the world. Podcast at a time.
Speaking of Gulf Coast, did we ever talk about Sam Long and his coaching situation?
I didn't, because frankly I don't care.
Okay.
I mean I keep up with all that. I know, and I'm, to be honest with you, I'm frankly shocked you even mentioned it, because I can't imagine you even
I know. Well, let me tell you why. I got an email.
You got an email
from one of these crazy Tri news things or whatever that somehow I'm on, and they're like.
It must be social media.
No, it was an email. Yeah, I don't know how I got, try news or something like that.
Sold your info. Yeah, I don't get any of those.
And, of course, the headline, and I read, and it was it wasn't an article. It was like a bullet pointy thing. And it was just this, I don't know how to explain it, but it was in the email. And it was left a lot of questions. And then they had 2 bullet points. And it was like, is this good or is this bad? I don't know. And then, I don't know. It was just the thing. And I'm like, well, I guess he did well without a coach, but he quit 2 weeks or 4 weeks before the race or something. I don't know. It was just context. Sam Long had been with a longtime coach, Ryan Bolton, for I don't know 6-7 years, maybe not that long, but just a little bit, and then changed coaches and started working with Dan Plews. So Dan Plews is. And I think he still holds the amateur Kona world record, fastest time. He also is the coach of Chelsea Sodaro, Javier Gomez, to name a few. So he's top level coach, but lives across the sea, across the pond, if you will. And I think they worked together for about 6-8 weeks, and then Sam had some, I guess, not so awesome results, but and then they parted ways. Listen, I mean that coaching is one of those things where if it all goes bad, and this, and this, we're
we do coaching as a profession. We work with athletes. If something goes wrong,
yep,
it's the coach's fault. The coach takes responsibility. At least that's how it should be. The coach takes responsibility. It's my fault, or it's we need to do this, or we need to get better. It's a we thing. If the athlete has success, all the praise goes to the athlete. That's that's the truth. Like that's the nature of the business. And if you don't like it, then don't be in it. But that's just the nature of the business. That and it goes through all sports, right? The best athlete on the team gets all the credit, right? And the coach is kind of like an afterthought, or they always, everything's in spite of the coach, or it's never, they take a loss. The coach made the worst play calls ever, right? And it's not up to the people. But that's triathlon coaching. Like people, don't like what's going on, but I genuinely believe that. In coaching and the athletes, it's a partnership. It's a relationship. You have to be bought in the same time. And just like other relationships, I believe that if you cross paths with someone 20 years ago, I'm talking like romantically, and maybe you were both in like different spots in life and had different personalities and different, things are important to you, then it didn't work out. But if you'd have met 15 years later, maybe it worked out. Because I do think it's a lot about timing, and especially from an athlete standpoint, an athlete has to be ready to be coached to really buy in. And it takes, I think most coaches would tell you it takes at least 4 to 6 months, for you to really start to see a lot of progress, and especially if it's something that's very, very, very different. So yeah, I'm kind of shocked you knew that, but yeah, he's won 2 back-to-back races. But if we're being fair, the competition was C level, maybe, maybe B level. Lionel Sanders was his biggest competition. He's self-coached, and I don't know. We're not going to go into that, but they were like B, C level races. The best athletes were over at the PTO European Open in Ibiza. So
one of my athletes sent me a picture on the beach the next day with Sam Long. I'm like, who's that guy?
Well,
that's kind of what got it on my mind. I probably wouldn't even open that email.
We were
Nathan, thank you.
2 tables from him, 2 tables away from him. What, the night before Chattanooga last year? Ironman Chattanooga, or maybe the year before? He was eating the same restaurant we were at. We had Italian over there where that night was.
Where was that?
We had Italian one night in Chattanooga. I want to say, I guess 2 years ago, before the full.
Trying to remember that situation.
Yeah, right there on the race course.
We ate on the race course. Oh, Tony's or whatever?
Italian restaurant.
Tony's?
I don't know what it was called anyway. Before we dive too deep into the fact that we have lost our memory at our old age and talk more about triathlon professionals and their coach gossip. It's your first time tuning in today. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe, and just podcast in general terms time is very valuable. So we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. We also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner-level triathletes looking at the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite-level amateurs trying to get back to world championships, and everyone in between from all over the globe. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and Training Peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question, let's try it in. Awesome people, fantastic community, solid resource in a sport that's oftentimes way overcomplicated and way too confusing. It is a group with a clear message and clear advice and lots of experience. So hop in there. Don't be a lurker. Participate. And if you've got questions, ask them, because you'll get plenty of really solid answers. We'll go in there about once a month and do a little bit of a Q&A, take the pulse of the community, and answer as many questions as we can. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads, but we do have an agenda, and that's to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, we do, buddy.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
The topic we're going to go in on today, I think is, one, it's good timing for everyone. Race season's upon us. people tend to start to shift their focus from, using triathlon as a kind of a way to stay motivated and you have external motivation through the winter months and the fall or whatever it is. Now that it's warm outside, there's races every weekend. It can be a little bit easier, right? To, I guess, lose sight and lose, your why or your purpose of why you have triathlon in your life, why you do it, and only start to focus on, the racing aspect, right? The expectations, the times, the podiums, the PRs, whatever it is, and you can just go straight to that. But as you and I talk about a lot, both on and off the air, and as we work with, the C26 has hundreds of athletes all across the globe, and we listen to them and we read their training piece comments and we get emails, phone calls, Zoom calls, whatever it is. We always have like a general good idea of how most people are feeling. Most people are dealing with things. And we get emails from our listeners as well. And generally that's, it's kind of like a Gallup poll, if you will, I guess, of triathlon and just human beings on this planet. But what we were starting to talk about before we got on today was how grateful we are and how appreciative we should be, if we kind of find ourselves not being appreciative, that we have a sport at our age in our life like triathlon that we can turn to. That, I mean, I can go back and, as this podcast has chronicled many of my stories of failure and triumph and how triathlon is been there, or how I've used triathlon in all different kinds of ways, but that it's always there and available. And it's something that we have to utilize when we're depressed, when we're anxious, when we're sad, when we're happy, when we're lonely. And now here we are with, I'm early 40s. You're a little bit older, and I think I lose sight of it sometimes, more so focused on, and you should be, on my own personal journey with fitness and in health. But the more and more I look around, the more I talk to people, the more you go to the grocery store, you go out in public, or I go to, some of, Hayden's sporting events, and you kind of you listen to people talk, about things that they are going through or that they don't have, and then their overall general health. I can't help but be very appreciative of the fact that it's a sport that I can always kind of turn to stay healthy and to kind of use as a positive coping mechanism in life, and not, turn into, things like you used to turn to, like, drinking like a handle of vodka. There's just a lot of ways to deal with it. But I think sometimes we forget, and it's always a good reminder to understand how appreciative we should be that we have a sport, and that no matter how late you came into this sport in your life, that it's something to be thankful for and then utilized really on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, man. The reason I was thinking about it is because, and I'm not talking about my athletes here. I'm talking about people I know personally that I'm back in my hometown, and I run across a lot of people that I used to run around with. And, there's this general sort of, low energy vibe, kind of depressed, down in the dumps. Like, I meet a lot of people and I talk to a lot of friends that I just feel that we don't necessarily get into those issues as much but I can't help but think, and that's why I said I feel really lucky that I got into this sport when I did, in my late 40s, because, that train can really go down the wrong track real easy. And I've seen so many of those people firsthand, and it's really something simple. I used to write about it a lot, and like my life situation and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure at some point that I've probably written down that triathlon saved my life. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I think really what that means to me is it saved my life, this life. You know what I mean? Like, I could have been alive, but it would have been, like, what frequency was I living at, and where was my head, and what kind of things would I have been doing, just to kind of wake up. And like you said, a lot of these people that I know they sit around and watch TV a lot, they will drink a lot, and it's not that, it's as much as like, I think the healthier, happier people are actually doing shit, and like yesterday is a good example for me, like it was kind of gone through some funky stuff, and I went out and in the midday, I got like a 50-minute run. First of all, before I started any of this stuff, I'd never been able to run like 5 minutes, and now like just throwing a 50-minute run in is just kind of like a little luxury. But in a way, it saved my day, which I found really interesting, because I didn't really feel like doing it, but I was like, let's just do it. And by the end, it was just kind of a different mindset, So I think, I talk about staying in the ballpark a lot, and you kind of coined that back in the day for me. It's sort of like just stay around the ballpark and stay active, and you just don't really, because you're living it, you don't appreciate it as much as maybe you should, because it makes so many other things so much easier, and you don't know how many other people around you are just struggling because they can't, do simple things or whatever the case may be, and they're always fighting some kind of low level depression, or kind of just not really feeling life on any level, and like you said, I was like, doing something. Triathlon is the sport that allows you, as you get older, to still be engaged with people, still be engaged with the mission, just, I don't care how you live. If you kind of keep it in, you're going to be better off than if you don't have any of it. So I think that it's important to really just kind of keep, I've talked about before how most of my life has been kind of forcing myself to do things that I know are good for me, but are hard. And, it goes back to drumming and playing sports and everything like that. It was not always the shit that I felt like I wanted to do, but I knew I should probably do it, and I'd probably be better off for it. And, that goes down to just working in general and doing harder things, and testing your body and stretching your body and stretching your abilities, because it does kind of make things easier. But I think the real interesting point is always that you might not recognize it all the time. You might think you're really drowning, but you're probably 99% of the time better off, than if you wouldn't have done anything like this. And it's like, I don't know, a lot of people kind of maybe play sports a lot when they grow up or do things like that, and then they never do it again, and they lose that. And that was the one thing I found when I started doing triathlon, dude. It was like, my buddy, I took a picture after my first sprint, and my buddy said, yeah, you look happier there than I have seen you in years. And I was miserable. I was trying to find all these things in my head, rather than expressing them with my body. And I think that we lose track of that. We get more sedentary and just sit around and kind of try to figure it all out in the computer, and the computer just sucks the life out of you, and your body has to move. Your body wants to move.
I'm gonna go deep here for a second and maybe ruffle a few feathers, but that's okay. But in the process, calm myself out at the same time. So hopefully that soothes things over. So you and I know I do split. We have been in the place that's very different than where we're speaking from now, right? Before you got in the triathlon, before you did your Couch to 5K program, back when I used to drink a ton, and triathlon was in my life, but it definitely wasn't using it in a positive way. I drank a ton, all these things. So you and I both know, right? We both know from personal experience, both as best friends going through the same time, but also as individuals, what it's like to not have a toolbox, right? Or know that we have one that we can use, that it's swim, bike, run, eat well, sleep well, feel your body right, connect with people when you want to stay connected with people, understand, right, your warning signs when you're lonely, when you're depressed, when you're hungry, when you feel isolated, and then act on it, right? And so we've been there, right? You and I have both been there, and we're both at, very different places now. But I think one of the reasons why, because you and I both, again, we talk a lot off air about all kinds of people that we come across, people that we know, people that we're acquaintances with, sometimes even, close friends or people that we coach. But that it's really hard, I think, and I think it's frustrating as a coach, but just as a human being, more specifically, that we have so many wonderful ways to benefit ourselves, to help relieve some of the symptoms of depression, to lessen anxiety, to not feel as lonely, to be more connected, to be outside, to the world is bigger and faster and smarter and more, incredible than ever in a lot of ways. But it also, by having it kind of molded that way, also makes caving in and being lazy and looking for the easy way out that much easier. And, you know, I don't, and for me specifically, I know one of the main reasons that, and again, being aware, right, of what you need and where you are is one thing. Having the courage and the presence of mind and putting your energy towards fixing it is another, right? So we moved here a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. So early June. Moving in takes time, right? It's like I generally feel like the best your house is ever going to look is right before you sell it. That's generally how I think about life. So everybody gets their house the best it's ever going to look, and they sell it and give it away to somebody. Anyway, so now we've been through a whole year, and I just noticed about me, like I'm going through winter. My job isn't one here where I can generally, I don't go to an office. I don't go to network events. I don't meet a lot of people through work. It's just me and my laptop and my computer. That's it. I can coach training. I can do Zoom calls, all those things. But what I noticed before I got back to playing tennis was I didn't get back into it just because of being more fitness minded, but I got back into it because I needed more connection. Mm-hmm. And I was dead on nervous about going. Mm. Really nervous. Now, if you asked me to go stand and speak in front of 2,000 people about a topic or about triathlon, about anything I know, I wouldn't be nervous, period. None, not at all. Because I'm not really meeting people. I'm just speaking, right, to people on a topic I'm very comfortable with. But when you put yourself in situations where you walk in and there's, and just like every sport, it can be very cliquish, right? Tennis is no different. So you're walking into, starting a class with 30, maybe 40 people you've never met in your entire life that already kind of have their core group, whatever. I was insanely nervous. I got there like 30 minutes early. I'm sitting in my car. It's like 5 minutes. Like, all right, I'm going to go in. I'm going to do this. Best decision I've made. And I don't know. And I'm significantly happier since I've gone. It's taken me a little, I'm not nervous about going anymore. I've met more people. But what I did, and the moral story is I recognized that I felt lonely. I felt isolated, and I needed something else. Right. And I know that because I've been there before. But I also, what I was failing to act upon was that I had a toolbox. I had opportunities around me that were offered to me, both at a local tennis place, but also doing other things that I have opportunities. Acting on them is a different thing, right? So we as triathletes, people that do endurance sports, we have in our toolbox the ability, the fitness, the health to go swim, right? To go ride, to go run. 3 different sports, not just one, but 3, right? We have those in our lives to make us better, to utilize, but it's still hard for people that would rather do something easier and different and not work, right? Because it's if you look at this day and age, it is so much easier and frankly more acceptable to just pick up 5 or 6 beers and talk late at night every night of the week, or to pop, unlimited amounts of prescription meds, or stare at your screen alone on social media for 7 hours a night. That's easier and is honestly becoming very, very that's almost mainstream, right? But there are so many opportunities and advantages we have, again, as endurance athletes, that we can build ourselves up, right? We can maintain a healthier lifestyle. But then again, when things get not uncomfortable, when we start to fall, right, or to fail, sometimes we forget to dig really deep in the toolbox, right, of things that are so obvious. We've been doing another example. I've been busy with work. Last week was super busy. Sunday, I played tennis for 2 hours, and I watched cars, and I was outside all day. And last night I slept like absolute trash. Heart rate was way up. HRV was way down. I woke up yesterday morning. I felt like I had hit by a bus. I mean, I was out and made it through the workday. And then I remember telling myself the same thing I always tell myself. And you're going to laugh when I say this because you just will. But I went back and I was like, what to do before you go to bed to make sure you sleep better. You take a cold shower, you meditate, and you do your breath work. Takes less than 15 minutes. But what I'd been doing was spending that 15 minutes watching a show on Netflix before bed, right? Staring at a bright light. So woke up yesterday morning, HRV was low. Didn't work out yesterday because I legit felt destroyed. Resting heart rate was 49. Last night, watched a little bit of the NHL hockey game because that's all we're watching right now at our house is the new playoffs. Got in bed early, took my cold shower, got in bed, did my breath work, did my meditation, went to sleep. I did wake up at 4:30, which is way too early for me, but not that much. Resting heart rate, 44. 5 beats lower, back feeling better, HRV higher. Yes, you could say, oh, it's a coincidence, but it wasn't. It was 3 simple things that I know to do that take less than 15 minutes, right? But it's just a little bit easier, right? It's just a little bit easier to not do it, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we fall into I think we fall into that trap, right? Of sometimes they're both easy, but we do even if one, like again, 15 minutes. I gotta get into the shower. I gotta get back dressed again. Like, oh my God, like my world's turned upside down. But you have all these tools that go deep in your toolbox, right? That eat well, right? Fuel your body well. Stop eating like shit. Stop drinking like shit. Get more sleep. Stop staring at your screen. Get outside. Be around people. All these things, right? That are free. They're free. Comparatively speaking, they're free. And they make you feel incredible. But what we usually do is do things that we think, right, are just a smidge easier, right, to do that cost money that we think will make us feel close or even kind of close to what we would feel if we just worked a little bit harder. And that is where a swim, bike, and run comes in, and not, it's picking up your run shoes, not picking up that bottle of bourbon, right? Or it's getting on your bike and getting in a workout instead of staring at a mindless TV show for 2 hours, right? It's getting your swim stuff on and going to the pool, right? Instead of spending your time doing things that are less valuable to your life, that don't help, but that dig a hole instead of get you out of one. Like, we have all these options. We know what to do, but it's insanely hard to stay on track with doing them, right? And that's the task. Like, that's the task for me is tonight. All right. Hayden's got a late baseball game, starts at 7:15, which is nuts. And I'm gonna get home late. I'm gonna be tired. And the last thing I'm gonna want to do is do that routine again. So the question then becomes the easy things are always easy, but what makes them feel harder is our life, right? So is it going to feel as easy tonight as it did last night? Nope. It's going to be extra hard, but I've got to know that the benefits are going to much outweigh the downfall of doing them. So again, there's so many things to take from it, and things we can use to our advantage to live a better life, to be happier. They're legit, all at our fingertips, all of it.
Yeah.
All at our fingertips, but it's recognizing what we need and then putting in just that little bit of extra work to get it, to be happier and to be healthier.
Yeah. It's that, how do you break through it? Or how do you, I was talking to you earlier about when I used to go to these adult children of alcoholics. My dad was an alcoholic, and at some point somebody said, you need to check this out. And I went, and there's a ton of good information in there. It's just psychology kind of being a child of an alcoholic. And one of the things that, like, I think it's like the first thing that says, we chose a life or seeking excitement or something like that. And I got to thinking, I've been thinking about that a lot over the years. I mean, I totally agree with that. And creating excitement can mean creating problems. And just to figure out a way, because it's like, whenever, like you were saying, when you go out and do stuff the right way, you feel good, and you've really got no problems. Or, you know what I mean? Like you can't woe is me it when you're feeling good, and it's a weird draw, I think, for a lot of people, especially. It seems like these days there's a lot of coddling with that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, it's okay, just sleep and eat some, cookies or whatever. And I think that when you start getting into that frame of mind, that because it's really what it is. It's an attention seeking issue. You kind of want to create issues so you can seek attention and get attention from people. And so, but like you, I'm sure you feel like going through treatment and everything is a blessing. I know you've said that many times. You know, it was like really hard and it sucked and everything like that, but it helped you recognize a lot of things within yourself and get through a lot of things. And that's how I feel about, you know, going through that situation with my dad, because it really, what happened was he was awesome. And there was some, you know, shit going on every once in a while, but, I had to forgive him, and that's all good. I mean, I'm totally good with that, but it's also, what it really did is it helped me figure out how to get through shit. And I almost kind of, I still do this, I think, where I'll, like that point of how do you get from knowing what you should do to doing what you should do. And I think I have a really good sort of muscle for that, because it's so easy to kind of sulk away and just kind of get into your own world and make things worse, and they sort of layer on top of each other and shit like that. But for me, I really almost, like, whenever I have a little injury or something, I really get kind of into trying to beat it or figure it out. And it just sometimes takes a little longer to get into that mindset, you know, like what you're saying. Some people will know that a cold shower, meditation, and breathing will help them sleep better. And then they have to get to a place where it's like, shit, if I don't start doing that, I'm going to be ruined. And a lot of people, I think, live in the middle, where they're kind of okay and they're kind of not too bad, you know, and it kind of just keeps going. And it's sort of the same thing. I kind of probably fall in that category, where it's like I kind of walk that edge of not being destroyed, and I'm very aware of that. So it's like, I think there's some real power in just facing it, and things you're afraid of and things that you know are the right thing to do. But like you were saying, recognize it. The earlier you recognize that, the better off you are. But I just, there's such a weird disconnect sometimes of, like, when people are feeling great. And I think what happens is, like, if you're not around other people that are feeling that way, you kind of start getting sucked back into the thing, right? You know, it's like, I shouldn't feel this good. I don't know. It doesn't feel right or whatever. It's such a weird thing. You know, I've got these buddies that, you know, we're on a text thread from here. You know, we live in the same town. And I'm like, the other day I finally had to say, what, are we ever going to go to fucking lunch? Are we going to do something? We just sit around and, like, spew whatever. And then, you know, then you start to recognize, it's like, maybe it's not so easy for them to, like, actually get up and go do that. You know, that's what I mean about, like, how triathlon can really benefit us in ways that we don't even recognize. You know, I'm getting older. You got to understand that some of these guys are getting older and whatever. And it's just like, you know, doing stuff isn't as easy as it used to be or whatever. And I mean, I work at this office space. I'm on the second floor, and I go up and down those stairs all day, you know, getting coffee, going to the bathroom, whatever, up and down, up and down. I saw this guy that was next to me. I said, he moved out. And then I saw that he was on the first floor because they're rearranging offices and adding things and everything. And I saw him. I go, I thought you left, man. He goes, no, I just had to get off that second floor. Going up those stairs. It's like, what? It's like one flight of stairs, you know? And I just think that when we're in triathlon, I think it's important to recognize and remember how many benefits we're getting from this just in the normal, you know, scope of life, and to not get pulled into those traps where people are like, come on, that's dumb. What are you doing or whatever? And then, because it's those little insulated pockets where you can kind of have a good time with somebody, and then you don't recognize that that's all I ever do. And then you get, you know, in this weird headspace of, if you're not around other people. That's why when you're talking about tennis and stuff, that was a cool thing, because obviously now you're around some people that are doing some shit. It's kind of new again, and it's fresh, and how good that must feel to actually be around other people doing something new that's exciting for you, that's, you know, that feels good. I can't do that. I mean, I guess my thing would be golf or, I guess tennis, but I never really played tennis. But, you know, it's not like I would get the same rush out of going to start playing beer softball. You know, that was like my thing. I can't go back. I can't do it anymore.
You know,
but that's why triathlon is awesome. It's sort of like a golf for a more active person.
No, it is. I mean, one of the things we talk about a ton with training is minimal effective dose, and it's doing just enough to get all the benefit versus doing more and getting less, and that is also life. And one of the reasons I think that most people struggle with good decision making and making the right choices in all areas of life is because they're too fucking tired to make the right decision.
Yeah.
Right. The more tired we are, the less energy we have. Right. And that's why, again, like I hate the fact that people consider themselves, that selfish has this like really bad word. Like there's this bad, like, aura about it. They're so selfish. They say no to all these things. And I'm like, more people should be selfish. I'm just going to say right now, more people should be selfish. You should say no to more things. You should do less. You should prioritize yourself more, because what happens is you wake up and you immediately do for others. And then you're so tired, so worn out. You've given so much. Your cup is empty, right? That the ability to make the next right choice for you is gone. You don't have the energy to make it, to not go lay on a couch, but to go for a run, right? The easiest thing to do is grab some shitty food, right? Some comfort food, or to grab a drink, right? Or to sit alone in the dark and watch a Netflix show that brings nothing to your life. That's easy. And it's easy in that you crave easy because the rest of your day, all you've done is use all of your energy for everything else, for work, relationships with kids, everything. So if you really want to maximize the most out of your life, like going back to, one of the topics we talked about, last week about days off and when to take them and stress is stress. Like if you really want to get the most out of your day and out of your life, you've got to know when to prioritize what you really need for the day to be happy and to do what's right for you, right? Instead of just continuing to do a half-assed job with all things in life, because you got to just make your way. And if you're overcommitted and overscheduled, cancel some shit. People do it all the time. I can't do it, man. I can't do it. It's not about being lazy. It's about understanding what you need. What you need is important, right? It's not about, and sometimes a day off and just chilling and watching Netflix is exactly what you need, right? But not every single day of the week. Like you really do have to understand it and think hard and make hard. Like, use Hayden as another example. He can't make all these decisions for himself because he's 6 years old, and he was supposed to have tennis last night, and he got home from school, and it was pretty nice out, and he's only got like 2 more sessions of tennis left, and we always stick with what we got. And we just finish it out no matter what. And he's liking it, but I could really tell he just wanted to I'm not an extrovert, but it's really not my main game. But he is a massive extrovert to a T. Like there is no introvert in that man. And I could tell when he got home, he needed like some extrovert time, like to hang out with his friends. And so talked to Allie. I was like, all right, I think we just say, go down to your friend's house, go do your thing, play wiffle ball, and we'll come get you when it's time for tennis. Well, we weren't going to make him go anyway, but then we got the text that was like, tennis canceled because of the weather, because it was raining. CC spent the next 2.5 hours playing wiffle ball outside with like 8 or 9 of the kids on the street, playing some basketball, got back inside, didn't even act tired. He was wired, in the most incredible mood, didn't complain about anything, didn't, argue about anything. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'll come right inside. It was like, that's what he needed. He needed like just some time to be free, to be an extrovert, to be whatever. And we honestly, like, we have been finning, and this isn't like a parent talk, but this is just us specifically. Like we've been balancing the ask for a video game or for screen time for 2 years, because that's I mean, they do iPads at school, they do all this kind of stuff, and we have fought it off. He doesn't get screen time with an iPad unless we're on a road trip, and he doesn't have a video game. He doesn't play him. And he came home from school on, I think Friday. Was like, hey, can you download this, this app from, I can't remember what it's called now, we have it at school. I'm like, oh, sure. You got it at school. It's probably like a learning education app, whatever. So I downloaded it, and he was like, can I play? I was like, you can play for 10 minutes. I know it's like the most like disciplined, cruel, strict out of the planet. And I was like, you can play for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So he gets done playing it for 10 minutes. And I was like, then you're going to be done. You're going to go outside. And wake up the next morning. The first thing he asks for was a fucking iPad.
Wow.
Hey, can I play that game? And I said, no, I'm deleting it. And then, of course, it caused like all kinds of why, all my friends, just, I said, you don't even like it, right? That's not like you would rather play outside and do things, but just having the fact that you spent 10 minutes on it and now you're not addicted to it, right? But that was the first thing you thought of was to stare at a screen. I said, I'm not doing it. We're not doing it. We can cross that bridge another day, right? You don't play the Super Mario Brothers, at some point with your friends, have at it, but we're not doing it. And of course I was like, there are so many more things to go do and enjoy, but you have to make, again, if this isn't a parenting, talk, it's like we have to make those decisions for him because he's out of age where he would just stare at his iPad 24/7. And that's what most kids do. iPad, because the parents, screen time. Like we're too busy. We can't pay enough attention. We can't go on walks with our kids or go ride bikes with our kids and leave stuff. And I was like, I'm making this decision for you. And it's going to, you're going to hate me for it for about, 2 seconds. You know how many times he's asked me for it since?
None.
Zero.
Yeah.
Goes outside, plays with friends. Again, like that. I give you that like example and experience to say that we as ourselves as adults, like making those decisions for ourselves is insanely hard, right? Because we're balancing so many things. We forget the toolbox that we have because it's so much easier to, ring ourselves up on another area and be like, this is easier. This feels good, right? And it's like, we want so much out of life that we fill our plate so full we don't know where one thing starts and one thing ends, and we don't know how to manage it, and we don't even know what we really want. It's just our plate is too full. Like again, goes with training, goes with racing. When you're racing and you're tired and you don't feel good, you know what you do? You make shitty decisions. If you're feeling good and you're feeling fresh, you make good decisions. Same thing with racing, same thing with training, same thing with life, right? And triathlon teaches us those things, right? Have a good workout, you make a decision. You're having a bad workout, you got to figure out how to handle it. Like we have this opportunity, we have this tool right in our toolbox to make us legit better people, to be more structured. Why would you spend your time doing that? Why would you spend your time not doing it? Right? We get that all the time, right? You're going to ruin your knees by the time you're 60. And I'm like, and you don't think being 80 pounds overweight is going to ruin your knees? Like we fight this battle. Triathletes do. Endurance athletes do. Why do you waste your time? Why do you do this? It's like, because this is how I want to choose to live my life. I don't want to choose to live my life. And people tell me, it's like if I'm going out or I say when I'm going out, when I go to other houses for like other parents are there and they're like, yeah, you're like, hey, do you want like, a glass of wine or a beer? I'm like, no, I don't drink. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, well, I'm not. Like, well, I'm not sorry that I drink. Like, yeah, I mean, I, wish I could be normal, have one drink, but let me tell you something. If you want to look at like, a bird's eye view of my life before when I was drinking, my life now, like you tell me like which one you're sorry for, because the one I'm sorry for is the one when I drank. This is the life that I want. And so why should you ever apologize for it? And usually when other people like, your friends that are older and they ask, like, that's most people, when they don't understand, they can't wrap their mind around, they think you're wasting your time. They think you're wasting your money. They think you should be doing something else. It's because they can't convince themselves of doing what you do is worth it and that they can do it. But you can. You're doing it, right? You're doing sprints, you're doing Olympics, you're doing 70.3s, fulls, you're doing your first triathlon, you've been doing it for 10 years. Like it is what we do. It's what we do. And could you be doing a million other things with your life on a Saturday than riding outside for 3 hours, with the wind in your hair, sun on your back, and pedaling your way to however many miles you want to go on your own? Sure. Right.
You can do it.
But what the hell else do you want to be doing? Right? Sitting on your ass doing nothing? Like we have an opportunity to actually live out our life. Live it. 100% live it. Or we can just be an active participant and dying the entire time, right? Dying fine. It's my biggest fear, not doing anything or not taking risks or not being aggressive in certain areas and always pushing. Like, I don't want to do that. That's not how I want to live. It's not how I want to go out. So I don't want to go out like that. So why should I live like that? And it is a very easy trap to get sucked into of doing nothing versus doing something. Because something's always, you say it all the time. I love yellows. I love it. Because you chose to do something. You changed, and then you either cut it short or you got more than you even thought you were going to get in. Right? You got to push that. And again, it teaches us so much about life and the choices that we make of making the harder decision to do something different than to follow, the drum of everybody else. Because they do. They think we're weird as fuck. They just do. I mean, I would too if you looked at us on race day with our spandex and shoving chamois cream down our crotch with, a glove and a porta-john and putting on a pointy, alien helmet with bikes that look weird. And then we run and none of us look like we're having fun. It looks miserable.
Right.
No one looks great in a spandex tri-kit. No one, period. And yeah, I get it. I get why it looks like we're nuts, but I guarantee you we're happier than most people. And so, because we have it. We have this most people do nothing. If you look at the state of society and how out of shape people are and overweight and depressed and anxious, not just adults, but kids, straight from kid level that don't do anything. Like I was talking to a dad that on his kid plays hockey. He was like, yeah, he said, we used to have all these kids that played on our street and now I never even see them. I don't even know if they live there anymore. They go to school, they come home, they sit in the basement, play video games, play with their friends. They don't get outside. Every time you see kids playing outside, the same thing for adults. It really is. You see playing kids outside, you know what they're doing? Running around, smiling, and laughing. Mm-hmm. Not doing that, sitting in the basement. Yeah. And again, we are those same people. We were kids. That's the same thing, right? And that's what running and riding and swimming can do for us. And it gives us confidence, it gives us health, it gives us wellness, it gives us a better well-being to be that, right? To do those things. But you can't continue to smother yourself with life and with all these responsibilities that you choose to have, and then bitch and moan that you're too busy and you can't do it. Yeah. I mean, look at your schedule, look at your life, and think of what was a choice to do and what really had to be done, right? And maximize your life and maximize your ability, because then you can live a fulfilling life and then you can do whatever it is you want to do. But I think people are afraid to say no. They're afraid to do too little and they get obsessed with doing too much, which leads them to doing nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean, that whole video game story you had with Hayden there, that really resonates with me. I guess it's a theory. It's probably not mine, but I just think that, the idea of spending time in front of a screen like that and with a controller or a keyboard or a mouse or whatever, I think naturally our bodies tend to, our shoulders kind of go forward, it closes our chest off, and that just becomes sort of the natural posture that we create in our bodies. And the more and more time you do that, and you've talked about introvert, extrovert, I think that is an introvert move. And with all these devices have created opportunities for introversion. And not only that, when we keep closing down, our breath gets shallow and everything like that. And I think a lot of times, sometimes that can make training for triathlon a little harder because we are, it's just a natural, our lungs get tighter and the whole 9 yards. But so, lately I've been back into this thing where I do a little yoga in the morning, 10 minutes, just an opening exercises where I get my chest open and open up, almost the inverse of that that being in front of a screen and at a keyboard motion, and just really trying to work on opening my chest. And I think what happens is when you're around people, like you were just talking about, when kids are out and they're playing, they're running, they're in more of a good body position and they're just happier in general. What was the whole thing? When you see the military, they'd be chest out, shoulders back, that kind of thing. And that's a confidence move. And I think that helps you feel better in general. And I think over time, we've just kind of created this body posture that is the antithesis of how our bodies should operate. And I think that we face that a lot. I mean, if that's how tight you are and everything's getting tight, and I speak from my own, because I've always done a lot of video editing. We're always in Training Peaks. We're always doing this kind of stuff. I have mandatory breaks now at the office where I got to get up and move around because, that's not a new thing. People talk about that all the time, but I think
you have to go all the way down to the first floor.
I have to go all the way down to the first floor. And then the railings on the stairs, I go up by my arms only. No, but I don't know. I just think those kind of things, it's sort of like we talk about how you sleep. You're in a certain position for 10 hours or 8 hours a night. And that has to have an effect on you. So I just think that there's important moves that we can do to kind of recreate our bodies after they've been, either sleeping all night or in front of a computer all day. I just don't think we should underestimate that kind of thing, especially, as a guy that's getting older, that's really noticing those things more and more, it seems like. It's not to take that for granted that we're sitting in a weird position for a long time every day. And now kids are constant, like you're saying, going to the basement and just being in the darkness and not even in the sun. And the sun is another one. People avoid the sun, It's like, what the hell is that? That's like the best energy you can get.
Our society is pasty as hell right now.
Yeah. No, it's dangerous to go out in the sun. Cover up everything. No, your skin needs it. You need to do it in small doses if you're pale. You don't want to burn, but you want sun. You want to get your skin to a point where you can accept sun.
There's a reason there's seasonal depression. Okay, it's that's 100% a fact.
Cover up your skin. What the hell? Stay out of the sun. That drives me crazy, man.
Get out there, do it. It's one of my favorite ones is, I wish you could do that, but my knees.
Yeah.
What about? I've got knees too. What about your knees?
Yeah.
They're not there anymore. Nothing's there if you don't use it. That's one of my biggest things with athletes, and I know the same way because you're trying to slow down as little or even get faster as you get older. Is that again, the mentality of what we can and what we can't do is determined not by our ability, but by our brain. Your belief system creates your ability or it takes it away 100%. Mm-hmm. You make that decision. So when you 100% make that decision, you're not me. And when I say things or when I talk to people and it ruffles their feathers about this, I'm it's because honestly, it's because they feel threatened that I'm calling them out because I know that they can make a different choice. And I do it with athletes all the time. Stop telling me these excuses that you can't do something. It's a choice. Listen, let's be honest for a second. We all think we're special. Everybody does. We all think we're special, right? We are all special in our own uniqueness. We all think we're special. We all think we need something different or something special. That doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. But what are you willing to work for? What are you willing to work for? Or are you too busy saying something doesn't work for me? Or I can't do that. Or I'm too old. Or that does not going to work for me. Or I've tried that before. But you work for something and you'll make it work. But we have gotten so filled with excuses about why. And that's why I get so pumped up with athletes that we work with that are getting older and getting faster. Or the ones that thought they were never going to be able to run again, right? The doctor's you can't run anymore. And now they're running again.
Yeah.
It's but you know why? Because they refuse to fucking walk the whole time. Refuse to.
Mm-hmm.
100% refuse to. So if it's in your mind, it's in your head, right? And yes, there are, if you broke your leg, it's going to take you a minute to get back. But stop believing that it's over or that you can't. Your dreams are as alive as long as you want them to. You can still get faster as you get older if you believe you can. You can still get that race you haven't been able to finish if you think you can. But so oftentimes, or get that promotion, right? Or take that leap, or take that risk, or do this, or make that decision. It's just a choice. You have to make these sometimes minute to minute, week to week, month to month, hard decisions to keep pushing yourself towards something you think that I can't do it. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But if you keep telling yourself you can't, then you won't. And then what'll happen is a year later you say, see, I told you I couldn't do it. You're like, no shit, Sherlock. You never even gave like the old good college try. It's a mental thing. It's an emotional thing that leads to the physical performance. And it is something that we overlook so often and so many times, use as a cop out of we're not athletic, or I don't have that in me, or I'm not a good runner, or I'm not a good cyclist, or I'm not, I'm not this, I'm not that. You are everything you say you are. That's just a fact, because you will always feel that way if you continue to say it. So say you're different, right? So you gotta be selfish a little bit, be special a little bit. That's fine. Do things that other people think are crazy. Do things that are challenging. Take risks. Be motivated. Keep yourself accountable, right? Like this, there's just so many things we can all do, and how we can use triathlon in a good and positive and healthy way to give us examples each day on how we can make those hard decisions, and then how they pay off in the big picture in the future. And we talk about this a lot, maybe every other month, but it's because it comes up all the time, and it's getting harder and harder and harder and harder on people to stop giving up, and they give in, or they opt out, right? Of not training, but of life, and they choose to just live out their days being fine and not doing anything, right? It's sometimes you got to be tired of the way you're living and tired of your own excuses, and get your shit together and make it work, and then be appreciative. Because I'm telling you, I've had 2 athletes say this to me in the last week. I really have to appreciate my health when I have it more often, because the only time we are really appreciative of things in life is when someone's been taken away from us. And you have to be, more appreciative, I think, more frequently about what you can do with your body, with your mind, with all these things, and what it can do for you, and not worried about everything else, right? And what it can't, or what I can't. Be appreciative of what it can, and then use that and be motivated for it, and be aggressive with it. Not to be irresponsible, but get after it, right? Stop waiting. We're waiting for life. We're waiting for this. I'll wait for next Monday. I'll wait for next year. I'll wait for this. And it's sometimes like, when I have a discussion with a couple of family, the excuses get old. Like, you just got to go out and you just got to go out and take it, and stop using, I'll say one line, and I use this to my mom talking about somebody today. I said, I've never, and this is honestly almost everywhere in the US, because we have so many. I said, I've never known someone to do so less with so many resources, or so little with so much resources. Think about that every day. How many resources we have at our finger, which honestly, the resources that we have at our fingertips is honestly probably part of the problem, because we can get, at our fingertips, we can maybe get a $10 return, but getting up off our ass and going outside, we might get 100. But we'll take the 10, right? Like, it's almost too much. We have so much, like, endless amounts of resources, endless ways to connect, endless opportunity, endless ways to educate, endless ways to do things that challenge ourselves. We've never had more opportunities than we have now. So use them. Most people are now doing it less. And I do think it's because it's almost we don't fully know how to take advantage of all the amazing things that we can, right? But which is why we hear things as triathletes, endurance athletes, like, why would you even do that?
Yeah.
Why would you even go to the second floor? Why would you even do that? That's bad. No, it's not. It's like the more we get, the less appreciative we get, and the more we retreat, and the lazier we get. So don't be that. Like, fight the good fight. Do more and specifically do more for yourself. Like, I don't know how many times I have to tell this to specific athletes, but I'm telling you too, if you're listening, is to stop fucking overscheduling yourself. Just stop. Say no. Take time for yourself. Like, overstressed, overscheduled, not enough sleep, driving, hitting the drive-through every night because you can't, don't have time to make things, like, it doesn't even sound fun to me. Like, make better decisions on that front. And I can't say yes, you can. And if you can't say no, then you can't use as an excuse either.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to decide what you want. Decide what you want and follow your path. But it's not that easy for most people. But you're right. I mean, the resources are there. The answers are all there. There's no real excuse. The only thing that happens is we tend to get distracted and move down too many roads. Just follow one. It'll work.
Follow one. And yes, we are passionate about this because we've both been there.
Yep.
We know what it's like telling you. And
still there.
We're obviously not perfect, but it's way better on the other side. And there is a amazing life to live, amazing races to do, amazing people to meet. There's so much, greatness out there and again, it's not like, neither one of us, we come from, we just talked about going to, your dad's an alcoholic. I'm obviously an alcoholic. We've both been through endless shit. Like we don't come at you from the white picket fence, when we have to come from here from like the one with barbed wire around it, but we come from experience, right? We've been there. We know what, and I think we're so passionate all the times we get, frankly, just pissed off sometimes when we talk about it with each other is that we see what's going on and we see how the opportunity is there for people to be happier, because that's where we found ourselves now after being fucking miserable for a while, right? Depressed and not happy and then unhealthy, right? And then how much better it is to not be that. But then once you get to the other side, it's still constant work. It's not like, you get there and then it's all so you just can freaking sail it in and put it on cruise control. It takes just as much work because you also know how easy it is to go back, but also how easy it was to not work, to stay in the same place. So we've been there, right? And sometimes we sound like we're being hard, and it's because we are. And sometimes we all need a quick, swift kick in the ass to move ourselves forward. Yeah. Hopefully, this podcast move yourself forward. We really do. We want when we say happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey, we also recognize that life is 99.9% of your journey. In triathlon, it's but a small part of it, but it is a great way to enhance your life, to create endless health benefits, to get faster, to perform better, to meet people, and just to be better. And to make sure you utilize that. So hopefully this podcast shoved you gently. If you needed a big shove and a trip and a kick, then hopefully that was that as well, to get you headed in the right direction, to having a happier and healthier life. As always, go to our website, c26triathlon.com, and is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you're looking for ways to support the podcast, you can click on the online store and do some shopping. Shop till you drop. That's the best way to support us. Keep us, we're always going to stay sponsored and ad-free. But it is a great way to support the cast. You can go on iTunes, leave us a review. That's another great way to support the podcast. And the more people that follow us, the larger our community is. And so do that. And if you're looking for coaching the rest of the year, you can always click on the coach tab and find the coach that you feel is right for you. As always, we love you and we appreciate you. If you want to reach out to Mike, he is available at CrushingIron@gmail.com. Or if you need anything from me specifically, c26coach@gmail.com.
All right. Well, that'll wrap it up.
Wrap it up, man.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot, man. See you guys.